Hello and welcome, inspired community. This is the stage of inspiration. My name is Caroline, and I'm so happy that you are all here watching, listening to the replay. Welcome to the stage, Lorna Gale. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, Caroline. Thank you so much. And it's good to be back here with you again. And I'm excited for today's conversation and our happening today.
Oh, thank you so much for saying yes. And of course, I would love to introduce you to the audience. So you are a sex and spirit alchemist of the feminine led life, somatic sexologist, teacher, intuitive energy healer, bondage trainer, and award-winning speaker. You have been leading people on transformative journeys for over 25 years, catalyzing potent transformations in the lives of people so they can feel at home in their bodies and relationships, express themselves authentically, and experience sexual freedom and spiritual wholeness. This is so important. You will tell us more about that, of course. You are a poet, writer, and a frequent guest on podcasts and TV shows. Of course, you were a part of my Inspired podcast, and I still think back at that moment when we created magic and told the world about something they absolutely need to know. Yes, and I'm curious about your message of today. Please, the stage is yours, Lorna Gale.
Thank you so much, Carrie. It is really wonderful to be here. And I am grateful to Caroline for this opportunity. A bit back, it's actually interesting. I know just before we came onto the recording, Caroline and I were speaking about her saying yes to spirit, to that divine prompting to get her podcast going, and to this event of One Voice in Many Hearts. And I think back 40 years ago when I sat. I grew up in a Christian religious home, and I sat as a young mom with my little 3-month-old baby in my arms. And there was a monthly gathering of people, and there was this woman on stage and speaking. She was very inspirational. And although I don't remember what she was speaking about, what I do remember was this awareness that came to me was, that's what I'm going to do someday. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be on stage and speaking and inspiring people. And 40 years later, there's this opportunity to, it's time. It's time to bring things forward, pardon me, my message. And at the time, 40 years ago, I had no idea what I would be speaking about. I just knew I'm going to be speaking. Well, here I am on stages, and I am speaking about sex. Certainly, I had no idea that I would be speaking about that. My background, in terms of my training, I am trained as a somatic sex educator through the Sexological Bodywork program, a professional training that I not only took, but I then went on to be the teacher of it for a few years, co-teaching it, and continue to practice that, a way of somatically supporting people, of really coming home to their bodies and to their sexuality. Interestingly, I had this opportunity years ago when I was teaching in the school system. My body started to shut me down. And that was where I moved from being in a religious experience to my spiritual journey beginning. And that happened. And then later on, my sexual awakening began. And here I am today, really bringing together to you that which I and so many people that I work with and that I've spoken with have had the experience of feeling that somehow that sexuality and spirituality are separate. And I'm saying they are one and the same, and just different ways of experiencing who we are in our human experience as well as in our divinity. I'm just going to just pause and invite you to take a breath. Somatic means of the body, tapping into the body, and the wisdom is there and learning from the body. And sometimes I and many of us can seem disconnected from the body. So I'm going to invite each of you, whether you are here live or you are watching through the replay, to just go ahead and take a moment and breathe. And breathe. Oftentimes, when we breathe, we think, there's the chest and the belly. We can sometimes feel the shoulders. I'm going to invite you to bring your awareness to those areas and feel the breathing happening. Feel the movement of the body as the breathing happens. And now I invite you to bring your awareness to the back of the body. Because often, again, when we think of breathing, we think of the front of the body. So go ahead and take your awareness to the back of the body and feel the body move with each inhale and exhale. And I talk about a body balloon, just like when you take up a balloon and you, and as you do that, the whole balloon starts to expand. And if I take off and let up the air, the body softens and contracts, gets a little bit smaller. So I'm going to invite you to bring your awareness again to the body. And as much as possible, allowing not only the torso, front and the back, and the sides. Hi, Craig, welcome. Also, to be able to feel the face, the head, the arms, the legs, the hands, the feet, everything a part of that body balloon. And see if you can, even if it's slight movement, feel the expansion and the contraction happen. Front, back, top, bottom. And in my world, in this, where I am speaking of the sexual erotic realm of things, I'm inviting you as well to bring your awareness to the pelvic bowl, that of our hips, down into our pelvic floor, where the genitals are, where the perineum and the anus are, to allow that to be a part of the breathing, to feel that as a part of the body balloon. And feel the movement happen as you breathe in that bowl I call the cauldron of creation. To allow it to feel the movement with each inhale and exhale, top, bottom, sides. So again, bringing your awareness to this body balloon, now focusing on this torso area. Belly, back, sides, pelvic bowl, pelvic floor. Feel that movement with each inhale and exhale. Now, why would I start my talk this way? Why would I spend so much time talking about this when I can be speaking about so many other things? Why? Because feeling beyond words is what brings us back into this place of connection to our body and to our soul itself. We use words. From the time we are born, we are using words to describe things, whether it's mommy and daddy, brother, sister, puppy, cup, giraffe, and then to using words to start to describe those feelings that are happening within. Oh, you're feeling hungry, you're feeling sad, you're feeling lonely, angry. Are you mad? You're lonely, sad, angry, frustrated, all of those different things. And all that baby is feeling is just that sense within through the sensory systems. And when we, I say, by divine design, start to take our awareness of what's happening naturally and wholly within the body, we start to disconnect a little bit to what's happening in the body. And indeed, sometimes some things, some words that happen take us outside of feeling within our body, because sometimes feeling and being within the body doesn't always feel safe, or it doesn't always feel pleasant. And I'm inviting you to feel at home in your body. And by breathing, by being able to truly, simply just breathe and notice what's happening, is a beautiful start and gateway to feeling everything that is wholly within, those raw sensations that are happening within. And instead of being afraid of them or feeling that they're too intense, it's actually, that's what starts to help us feel at home in our body. Now, Caroline did do her introduction of me, and thank you, Caroline, for that. I'm just going to take a drink of water here. I'm feeling that coolness going down. She mentioned that I am a sex and spirit alchemist of the feminine-led life, a somatic sexologist, an intuitive energy healer, a bondage trainer, a poet, a speaker, all of those things. And what I really love is the various things, like a diamond that has its multiple facets, that these different facets that I get to be and express in terms of speaking to you of that which is within me and that which is within you and that which is within our experience itself. My journey. I want to give you a little bit of a snapshot of how did I get to this place? Because as I mentioned, 40 years ago, when I was inspired with this awareness that one day I will be on stages and speaking, I had no idea at the time what I would speak about, and I certainly did not think or could not even fathom the idea that I would be speaking here about sex, about sexuality, and about spirituality, let alone both of them in the same talk. Being raised in a Christian home, a beautiful family, a wonderful supportive community. What I did do was recognize that the admonition and the teaching that I grew up with and that I adhered to of save yourself for marriage was not only about putting this aspect of our sexuality into a certain container, but it was also this message that I took on, and very deeply, that, if I'm supposed to save myself for marriage, that means that my body, my sexuality is not mine. It belongs to the husband. It belongs to the marriage. So this idea of exploring my body, exploring my sexuality was not even on my radar. So by the time I got married at the young age of 18, I had really lack of awareness of my body, and like it sometimes is thought that, oh, as soon as you get married, everything's gonna click into place. Well, it didn't. It didn't. My husband and I very frustrated because I didn't know about my body. He didn't know about my body. We explored. We tried to figure things out, and yes, there was much pleasure, but just quite not what was there. That I knew that there was so much more. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know how to access it. I did realize, though, that I was very disconnected from my sexuality. And in my work over these last 15 years of working with people, whether it's women, men, couples, in retreat settings, working in the professional trainings, working with people that binary, there's not a sexuality attributed to, it's just kind of, I am a sexual erotic being. What I've come to realize that the majority of people, myself included, feel at some level disconnected from our sexuality, a level of shame, discomfort, sometimes even guilt, and there's a lack of peacefulness within. Because sometimes what we feel within doesn't always match what's outside. And I want to address that aspect of outside. We have been taught to look outside of ourselves for partner, pleasure, permission, authority, looking at those ways of it's out there. So there's this quest to find ourselves out there. And I love what's happening in our world today. There's this awakening happening to say, no, come on back home. Come on back home here to this body and even more so to the soul that dwells within. And so I kept looking outside, and this sense of looking outside for a partner, looking outside for pleasure, permission, authority, takes us outside of really, truly trusting ourselves, listening to our bodies, because, well, somebody knows more than I, somebody knows better than I. I need someone to tell me what's right for me. And I'm saying, it's truly about, can we come home and listen to within? In my work, what I foundationally start with is looking at consent. And whether somebody is on their own or with a partner or partners, I say, let's start back at consent. Because interestingly, not, pardon me, often in a very loving and seemingly supportive way, as children even, our consent gets overridden. How? Well, I'm a grandma. I have six grandchildren that range from ages 21 all the way down to 6 years of age. And I've had opportunity, I've used this example, and as a grandma, I've been able to live this. And I'll tell you a little bit more. Here we go. Grandma comes to visit. She lives a long ways away. And it's time for her to go. Mommy, daddy say, come, little one, come and say goodbye to grandma. And little one is coloring or playing with a toy. It says, I don't want to. Come and say goodbye to grandma. Grandma's going to be gone for a long time. We won't see her for a long time. Mm-mm. You need to put down what you're doing. You can always come back to that. And grandma lives a long ways away. You won't see her for a long time. She'll feel sad. Look at grandma. Look at her. How sad she looks. And she's getting old. She lives a long ways away. She might die by the time you get a chance. You won't get a chance to say goodbye to her again. So in that very quick and seemingly simple interaction, there are many things that have just happened there. And perhaps you, as I was doing that, picked up on them here, but also even more so here. That level of what that child is doing isn't important, and they need to put it down for the sake of someone else. That child was also shamed into not only what they were doing as being seeming to be more important, but there was a sense of guilt because, well, grandma's going, grandma is feeling bad. Look at grandma. And this aspect of a child being responsible for an adult well-being, I encourage you um, to never make that a child is responsible for your or another adult's well-being. And as we can come back into this way of from childhood starting to really reinforce that child's autonomy, that child's knowing within. And what I do in my work is I bring people back to, and I don't even have to go back into childhood. All I need to do is just start right here and find out, take them through different practices and exercises so that they can find out, what does consent feel like in their bodies. Practice it so that times when you've said yes, you actually meant no. And I'm not even just talking about in sexual environments and situations. I'm talking about day to day to day. This is this aspect of welcome, glad you're here. This is this aspect of day to day to day where consent, when we feel at home in our bodies, our voice is then representative of what's happening within. I'm going to invite you into this very, very moment, actually, because it's one thing to talk about things theoretically, but I want to be able to give you some practical things so that when you leave, those of you who are here live with us today, those of you who are watching the replay and re-watching the replay, because I want to be able to give lots of different things here. You kind of think, oh, wow, let's go back to that and practice it. So I'm going to invite you to just find where you are. You might be sitting, you might be standing, you might be laying down in bed, you might be reclining somewhere. I'm going to invite you just to go ahead and check into your body and find out, is there anything that you would want to change? Maybe adjusting something. Maybe if you've got long hair, it's kind of, you need to move it around. You might have a little bit of a crease in your pant leg, and it feels a little bit uncomfortable. Just tune into those things and go ahead and make those adjustments so that you can say, ah, yes, perfect. There's nothing that I would want to change. Just feels just right. Sort of that Goldilocks, right? Not too hot, not too cold, just right. So find that place within you that just feels just perfect. Now, a minute from now, it might change, and that's okay. But in this moment, this is what it is. Now, interestingly, sometimes we have these pieces that come through our mind, these thoughts that zip in, that say, well, it's uncomfortable, but it's only going to be for a little bit longer, or I can put up with it, or it's not that big of a deal. Well, what will so and so think if I make the adjustments, because I just said I'm okay. What will they think? Those are all of the ways that we have been taught to override being true to ourselves. And that's where, when we talk about boundaries, that's where boundaries get overridden because we've never really come back to really honor them. Just like that little child. That little child is going to be growing up. If that continues, then it becomes this experience of, well, what I really want doesn't matter. Somebody else wants something. Oh, okay, I'll do that. So people pleasing starts to happen. That's where this aspect of sexual assault and trauma starts to happen, because there's the sense of, well, my body isn't mine. Why should I have any say over it? And it's never too late for you. Never too late to support children in our families. Never too late to honor someone else, to be able to come back and come into this place of what is true. Now, using the word, and I've used it and we hear it often, what is true for you? Well, how do we determine that? So I'd like to give you 3 different ways that I use, how I help to tune into the body, and we've just done some of it. And I'm going to keep coming back to this example. Is when you find on the couch or wherever you're sitting, standing, sitting, laying down, that place that's just there, anchor into that and feel that. If you need to make an adjustment, no matter how big or how small it is, make that adjustment. That is consent. Well, I thought consent was saying yes or no. No, I say consent is a feeling. This is what consent is. It's a feeling. When you can feel there, that's when you are totally aligned. Again, that's one of the words that we use. It feels aligned. I feel aligned with it. Because it feels, there it is. Another way we talk about is, I'm going to use the word true. So a lot of us are familiar with using a plumber's bob, right? We take a string and we put a weight on the bottom of it, and it helps that to hang true. We make a line that is true, and maybe for hanging wallpaper or something, but we want a line that is not to the side, not over here, but it is true. And that's where I use the word true, because it is totally aligned within. Now I'm just going to get something, just one moment. I have on my various locks and keys, I have this one kind of lock, and some of you are familiar with these kinds. Sometimes they've been used for bike locks. And they are the ones that you turn the number and you line up the number that way. So when we do it, it is, let me just do it right here. I want to show you. I want to show you what this is. There we go. Okay. So I've just been able to, by lining up those numbers, I've been able to now to open this lock. And that's what I say is, when every time there's this opportunity for you to find out what is true within, you are lining up. It's like lining up these numbers. And in there, you have the freedom. You can You can get closed this way, you can open. There's that movement that can happen. There's that freedom that can happen. If any one of these numbers is out of alignment, I can't close it. I can't close it. And once it is closed, if I put the number out of alignment again, it's locked. All right. So by putting that number into alignment, there's that freedom to happen. So I use that as an example for those times of, oh, okay, something's out. Oh, somebody feels like I should do that, but I don't really want to go to the show with somebody. I want to just stay home tonight. But I said yes when I meant no. That's one of those numbers being out of alignment. I'm not being true to myself. And so coming back to our place on the position on wherever you are, seated, standing, laying down. It's a few minutes now since I had you check in. Something might have changed. So tune in again, because that's what happens with consent. It changes with the situation. And it's this opportunity to continue to come back into each moment of being aware of what is happening in the body. Sometimes we get these senses of something just doesn't feel right. We tune into it. What do I need to do? Is there something that I need to be aware of? Something that I need to change? Something for me to bring my awareness to that allows that, again, that consent or that feeling within to be in alignment. It is true for me. Here's another example that I'd like to give, the third one. So I talked about being aligned, using this as an example. Being true. So again, another way of looking at everything being aligned. Here's another example that I like. Is I used to think that sharpening a knife, when it got a little bit dull, so all of these little metal edges are out of alignment, and so we take the different sharpeners of various materials, and I always thought that it was about we sort of shred those things off, to get them out of the way so that it can come back and make another sharp edge. What I came to realize that no, to hone or to sharpen a knife is actually bringing those back into alignment. Hone. 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 The first four letters in honesty. Honest. Honesty. Honesty is an inside job. When everything is aligned within, you get to be coming from this honest, honed place. And then you can be honest with yourself, then honest with others. But being honest is an inside job because you are then in alignment. You are true to you. So I want to leave those three pieces with you. So again, now tune into where you are, laying down, sitting down. See if there's any changes that you want to make so that you are just, because sometimes we get crinks and cracks in our body. We want to do that. Things change. We need to reposition. So go ahead and take a moment to do that. Once you've got that place, anchor in and feel. What does that feel like? Because that then becomes your true north. That becomes your inner compass. So when somebody gives you an opportunity to do something or a situation arises, you can take a moment and take as much time as you need to tune in. Yes, I would like to go ahead and do that. Let's go. Or no. Or not quite, but if we could do this, then I would. And these are the ways that you can be in alignment, be true to you, be honest with you and with others. That is what consent looks like and feels like. And I want to put this now into a context about sexuality. We have been taught to look outside of ourselves for permission, for authority, for partner. And in the process, we often negate or diminish that which is happening within, or of even feeling our wholeness. Well, I'm not complete until I have a partner, so I'll do the best that I can. I'm saying, No, you are whole and complete in this moment as you are. In the introduction that Caroline read, I talk about being a sex and spirit alchemist of the feminine-led life. What does that mean? Great question. And alchemy, talking about this transformation that happens. And when we look at this experience of outside, and I'm going to draw a picture for you because I have different learning styles. I know that there are different learning styles for various people. I'm a combined kinesthetic. Sometimes it's hearing, sometimes it's seeing, but I'm going to do it this way for you. So here you are, and we have been taught to look outside of ourselves. Again, as I talk, there's permission, power, authority, partner, pleasure, all of those things. And when we're doing this, we're operating from outside, that somehow we are not complete without connecting these parts. A part of this also is we are to look outside of for that spiritual part of us. I, growing up in my religious background, had this sense that God is outside. So whether you attribute a spiritual sense to, by name, God or source or the divine, some aspect that says there's some bigger picture, but it's outside of me. And yet, interestingly, in my tradition, where I was taught, that we're told that the spirit of heaven, the kingdom of heaven is within. And yet we're outside looking for everything outside of us. And so to be able to come back to here, we're taught, well, there's female and male. And in my Facebook group for women, it's called Reclaiming Eden. I talk about how in that very experience where there was a disconnection from not only female and male and the divine and humans, but also the shaming about sexuality. And by divine design, it's look outside of ourselves, this quest to forever be trying to find our wholeness, come back home. And I'm saying it is time to truly come back home to here. All of those ways that we've been taught to look outside are ways of been hiding the gold. So what does this mean of the feminine-led life? Sex and spirit alchemist of the feminine-led life. We've been taught that sex and spirit kind of don't really fit together except in a very, very specific way. Anything else is wrong, bad, sinful. We've been taught there's female and male. There's spirit, and there is. So we're taught that there's female and male. There's heaven and there's human. And I say that sex is actually looking at the intersection where all those come together that bring us here beyond the act of sex. It's not even that. It's this, how does sex look at this sense of we are separate? And I'm saying, let's bring it back together. And when we talk about female and male, that we use it because there are different kinds of bodies. There's a female body and there's a male body. And interestingly, there are bodies that have both kinds of sexual organs, genitals. So it even takes away our ideas of, oh, there's two, it's separate. It's kind of like, no, it's this journey of coming back to this realization of our wholeness. And I talk about feminine and masculine beyond our idea of female and male. Well, the feminine is female, masculine is male. No, we can look at these as feminine, and this is the way, the lens that I look at things, this is the way I experience things, this is how I teach it. Because I feel like it creates a framework and a model that allows us to come back home into our wholeness and to realize that, oh, we've never been separate to begin with. But feminine talks about spirit or energy, and masculine is, so I'm going to put here, feminine is energy, and masculine is form. So there's the feminine part and there's the masculine part. In our world, we're talking about the rise of the feminine, and there is the masculine in support. I say that women's empowerment and the feminine rising is more than just about women coming into their power and the acknowledgement of the many, many males who also in our world as we've experienced it, where the masculine seems to be over, and I'm saying it's a feminine arising is actually starting to bring an awareness to and a rightness to, not right and wrong, but a bringing it into a balance or into an upright position where the feminine is in a leadership and the masculine is in support of that. And you think, okay, well, I don't get why that is. Does that mean that there's women where there's women in charge? Well, that can be. That is one of the ways that it's a bringing up of things from out of the mirror. Because again, when we look in a mirror, we're actually seeing not what is. We see the opposite. So I say, let's look. We've been looking at and living in the mirror, looking outside of us. That's the mirror. What's it like when we start to bring things where the feminine is not over, but initiating, leading. And then the masculine has this place that says, now I know where I get to fit in. Now I know where I get to be in support of, rather than I don't know where to go. I'm just kind of lost. That feminine leadership is there, the masculine there, and it creates this place of harmony. And I call it homes of harmony, not just homes where the families are and there's the children and the parents, but I'm talking about homes of harmony. These homes are in harmony because there's not this sense of I'm missing part of me. I have this body, I need the other body part to come and make me whole. It's kind of like, no, we are whole within. There is the feminine and the masculine within. Within this aspect of looking at feminine and masculine, there are different attributes. Sometimes we talk about yin being feminine and masculine being yang. And yet, feminine has yin, masculine has yang. Feminine has yin and yang, masculine has yin and yang. The yin of the feminine, I'm just going to give just some attributes of it, but to create a sense of looking at things from a more holistic perspective, is that there is the feminine that is that nurturing, creative part. The yang of the feminine is the Kali, the destroyer, is no, change is necessary. We must have justice for all. The masculine, yang, is that part of that doing, that action, that protecting, that providing. The yin of the masculine is that holding, just like the testicles hold that attribute of life. There's that holding power. So even holding space, we talk about that as being a feminine thing, and it's actually, and there can be a feminine aspect of that nurturing part, but there's the masculine that holds. I'm holding space for you. And one of the examples that I love to give as well, and I'm going to put it here so you can see all these visuals, is that of a fire that's burning brightly. A fire that burns as strongly as it can be, and I'm going to use a campfire, if you will, or a fire. These stones around it are like the masculine, are holding, providing that place for that energy of the feminine to burn as brightly as we can, to burn and to be transformative. We have all of that within us. We have the feminine within. We have the masculine within. And it's not even just about characteristics, but the very aspect of we are in a human body. That's form. No matter what genitals we have, no matter what gender, sexuality we attribute or ascribe to, we are in a form that is masculine. This life force that breathes and moves and animates us is the feminine. We've been whole all along. And so this journey of coming back home to ourselves is sometimes this undoing or an unlearning of what we've been taught, because again, by divine design, we've been taught, look outside of ourselves. And I'm saying it's time to come back home. It's this journey of coming back home, and not in a place of judgment and shaming of that's what it was. No, by divine design. What an incredible story to be whole, hidden in plain view in our wholeness, and looking outside. And here we are, right here. And so this part, when you come back into this place of feeling, what does consent feel like? It is feeling beyond words, because you're tuning in. In that very moment, you are connected to your wholeness. You are feeling at home. You are feeling beyond words, because our wholeness doesn't need words. Our wholeness can express through words, but it doesn't need words to be. So I'm going to invite you just to take some moments again and just find out, is there anything else you want to get changed? Switch up, adjust. And beyond this time of our time together here, it's day to day to day. Keep coming back into that place, anchoring in. Find out in each moment as much as possible, because it's a practice. We've been taught, look outside of ourselves. And so this journey of, coming back and honoring what I want or what I need can actually seem, and we've talked about it many times in our world, is it feels selfish. Self-love, self-care seems selfish. Why? Because we've been taught in the great story of being human and this idea of being separate from our divinity. That's what we've been taught. That's a part of the story. And each one of us, I think, in our own ways, loves stories, whether it's through books, movies, oral tradition of telling stories. We're captivated by the story. And so why would it be any different when we actually are the lived story? And we're now coming back home and realizing that everything that's happened along the way, every person, every situation has beautifully, perfectly, and in perfect time brought us to this time of our coming back home to ourselves, this journey, this awakening that's happening. And as I say, that this women's empowerment and the feminine arising is a spiritual awakening for everyone, because we are all coming back, and we've all been taught through and experienced what it's like, look outside of ourselves, be a certain way, shut down certain things. Women have often been taught, you are a woman, you're emotional, yes, but do not be sexual. No. Men are taught, you are sexual, but do not be emotional. That somehow there's a sense of, for women, being sexual beings is shameful, wrong. And yet there's a conflict, because I feel sexual, I feel erotic, I can feel that life force energy within me. How could that be wrong? And we come from this aspect of humans. Everything that we do is based on feeling. The gift of being human is to feel. And emotions, even in stories and movies, they are created in such a way to elicit emotion. So why would it be for someone being a man? Oh, no. Do not feel. It's weak to cry. Men don't cry. It's a sissy. You throw like a girl. So right away in these various pieces, not only aspects of us are shut down or said to be wrong, shameful, not appropriate, we're also putting down this aspect of, in that comment that I just made, was that aspect of somehow there is some sense that being feminine or being a girl is wrong. So we have been in our own ways, disconnected from ourselves, that somehow the feminine part of a male is not good, or the masculine part of a woman is not good, or the idea that we are woman or man as opposed to being in our wholeness, regardless of what we need. Because, as Shakespeare put it, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. And I say that flower, that does not even need a name to be as sweet as it is. It simply is. So, this journey of coming back home to us is really simply coming back into the awareness of who we are. And so, in my work, I get to work, and sometimes it's in my work in my bondage work, working through the domination and submission piece of helping people to come into raising their empowerment, raising their ability to surrender into that feminine leadership, not separate from, but in our wholeness. I invite you in these last few moments together, and you might have some questions. We're just going to, hi, Erin, welcome, glad you're here. Take a moment, and we're going to end some of this time together with what you have, where we started, is just breathe. There's a quote that has been central for me by Audre Lorde for these 15 years since my midlife sexual awakening. We tend to think of the erotic as a quick, tantalizing sexual arousal. I speak of the erotic as that deepest life force energy that moves us in a fundamental way. So I invite you to breathe this form that moves in response to that energy that's breathing us, that animating life force energy that is the breath. Very active breathing is testament to our wholeness because we are breathing and being breathed. All right. Thank you for this time. Caroline, I'm going to hand it to you. I'm not sure if there's any questions there. Just really want to create space for if there's any people there.
Thank you so much. This was, I wrote so many things down to remember. I will watch the replay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I see Aaron and Sherry Ann. And if you have a question, we have 2 minutes because Lorna is at another speaker event, right? Yeah. Do you have a question? Then now's the time. Oh my goodness, this was so good.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think, it's such a big part of just shifting our perspectives of where we're looking and how we're looking and what we're seeing. And I think I love that of, hidden in plain view. So many things are that, right? Sometimes it's the keys or the pencil behind our ears. And here it's our wholeness. And wow, what an amazing, amazing experience. So what a beautiful story we're living, being lived.
Thank you so much. Aaron wrote in the chat he will check the replay. I know you joined later, like 5 minutes ago or so. Of course, the replay is amazing. A shift in perspective leads to a shift in direction. Yes, that is so true, Aaron. Thank you for being here with us. Cherry Ann, if you like to ask a question, Aaron.
Kind of was going on and off, trying to join here, but that was the biggest takeaway was a shift in perspective leads to a shift in direction. It's very important to like monitor our inner dialogue. I talked about that many times before on here. And thank you, Caroline, for this amazing event. And it's just amazing hearing all these amazing speakers, amazing leaders, and just really helping us gain clarity on how to move forward in life, how to be more intentional and become better every day.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. This is amazing. And I think now it's time to come to an end because you have to go. Thank you so much for being here. I stop the recording now and I see you in the next stage event.
Sounds good. Thanks, Caroline.